logically, you know you're safe, everything becomes potentially dangerous.
A life or death situation can change a person, some more permanently than others. It is natural for someone who's survived a traumatic situation to experience anxiety and fear for several months.
As Fox 43's Denise Rogers-Myland reports, when those symptoms linger and become to transform a person's reactions to the outside world, it could be time to seek help.
Being truly traumatized can change the way a person lives life. Anxiety, depression, nightmares, living flashbacks, all of these can plague someone who lives with post-traumatic stress.
They're often hypervigilant, they're aware of their surroundings at all times.
Ryan McGinnis is a counselor in Lancaster, working with people who live with post-traumatic stress. As he explains, the early reactions to a traumatic situation are results of evolution.
When we experience trauma, our brain tucks away that experience. So now our brain is actively looking for this to occur. And since it's actively looking for something bad or something negative to happen to us, we're constantly assessing and filtering our experiences in the here and now through that past trauma.
The problem for people living with post-traumatic stress is they can't turn off the search mode in their minds.
Even though logically you know you're safe, everything becomes potentially dangerous.
McGinnis explains it as a shift in priorities.
The things that might matter to us in society that seem really important, that stress us out, those are not even going to be on the peripheral of somebody who's experienced life or death situations.
Ironically, the priorities of someone living with post-traumatic stress are actually closer to the evolutionary truth of what everyone's stressors should be. Outside of the mental health community, post-traumatic stress is most often connected to military veterans. And while McGinnis primarily works with vets, it's important to note anyone who has experienced trauma can have difficulties down the road. That includes people who witness trauma of others, police officers, firefighters, emergency medical workers. Victims of assaults and other crimes, and traumatic events like car crashes are also at risk. As for military veterans, McGinnis says he believes there's a discrepancy with the numbers behind post-traumatic stress.
So the numbers are something like 10% of our military deploys, and between 1 to 3% of our military engages in combat, and yet 40% of our military files for post-traumatic stress. And it's not to say that the 40% don't have serious difficulties. It's just to say that that's the only diagnosis that's available to them, and so that's the one that they apply for.
McGinnis says what he's noticed among vets is not as much trauma-related as it is a problem with adjusting to civilian life upon returning home. Military life demands that service members create specific bonds, which humans are supposed to have.
You are living in very close proximity with other individuals. You are sharing every aspect of life with them. You eat with them, you sleep with them, you train with them. You have the same goal and the same focus, and your very life depends on them.
American society, though, doesn't always allow for that. Relative safety and technology means we don't always need to form those meaningful relationships.
It is incredibly isolating to get a taste of what it means to be fully human and then to come home and to be alienated. Their struggle is an indication of our difficulties as a society, not so much theirs.
A struggle that can be tough to watch. McGinnis says the best thing anyone can do to help a person living with post-traumatic stress is to avoid internalizing that person's difficulties.
When somebody's going through a difficult time, that their difficulty doesn't say anything about you or how your partner feels about you. What I see happens with a lot of loved ones is that they think that the person doesn't care about them because what's important to them isn't important to their partner any longer.
Those negative feelings can put more pressure on the other person to heal faster. And the reality is, healing is a relative term in cases of post-traumatic stress.
We just learn how to cope with it. So those monsters, those demons, those phantoms, whatever you want to call them, they've become woven into the fabric of who we are. What we learn to do is not permit them to dictate how we live.
And it's those monsters, McGinnis says, that feed the stigma surrounding mental health issues and post-traumatic stress in particular.
I think the stigma for mental health exists because we are afraid. I think people who have post-traumatic stress remind us that the bubble in which we exist isn't actually keeping us safe. Their struggles are a constant reminder to us that we could be experiencing the same things.
Denise Rogers-Myland, Fox 43 News.